I think he's an average NFL starter. Ryan Tannehill is kind of the range that comes to my mind. Now, is that good enough ultimately? Do you want to build your team around that? I think that's sort of what people in Philadelphia are going through right now, right? Like, oh, we know Jalen Hurts, he's good enough to be a starter. He's good enough to be okay. He's good enough we really want to build our team around it and bank on him to win a Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, we have our next guest, and you can check him out, certainly ESPN.com, ESPN as well on Twitter, at Jordan Raanan, ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Giants. And by the way, he is a man of the people, in case you were wondering, Derrick Gunn. What's happening, Jordan? How you doing, man?
Dude? That was a line from a long time ago. People do not believe that anymore.
What's up, man?
You got to update that profile, man. You got to.
When I was like the little guy grinding my way up, it worked a lot better. Now they're like,
it is what it is.
ESPN sucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now it comes off like, all right, dude, you're full of yourself, or one of those deals.
I was told never to change your Twitter avatar though, even if it's like you 20 years ago and you're super young and I had no gray hair, because people are just used to that being your avatar, and they're so conditioned to that being you that it's used to, that you're better off never changing it.
Oh my God. I love the there's so much research that goes into everything now. It's amazing, Jordan. So good timing, because last segment we were talking about some new faces and new places as far as NFL coaches go. And, obviously up close and personal, you're dealing with that right now with the Giants. With
every 2 years, man.
You're right. Yeah. The Joe Judge era feels like it was 20 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. That's for
Pat
sure.
Shermer, we were there too.
Oh God.
That's right.
Ooh, that's right. You know what? You're right. It was very forgettable, but maybe not for you, but for us. Well, give us your initial impressions. I think we're all big fans of Daboll here on the show.
No question.
But, obviously things are not perfect there. And just give me your impressions of how he's looked thus far and what your expectation is for the Giants this year.
I mean, he's just a very personable guy. Like, you could just see that. The way he interacts with people, he's just one of those guys that brings positive energy to a room. You could, when you just have general conversations with that, you could tell that about the guy. And the offense, that's the biggest difference. What you see, the Giants' offense was not it was not up to what offenses are in today's NFL. Right? It was basically behind the times. Jason Garrett was their offensive coordinator previously. It was very vanilla. Now you're seeing a much more modern offense, guys moving around, motioning, using guys in different spots, designing runs for your quarterback. It just looks different. I think that's what Brian Daboll brings to the table, right? And Mike Kafka, who you guys know a little bit too.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They're coming from, and they're bringing, the offense is going to be really Daboll's offense that they ran in Buffalo with some pieces of what they did in Kansas City. So here's what we know when you hear that. This offense, we know that this offense can be effective in today's NFL.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a matter of getting the right pieces, because those are two offenses. I mean, we all watched that playoff game with them. Those offenses are just fine. It's not the offense that's the problem if the Giants can't score points. And last year, by the way, they averaged just over 15 points a game in today's NFL. 15 points.
Jeez.
Watching that is painful.
Oh,
so you mean to tell me they're not gonna take a knee? You know what I'm saying, on third down or first down?
The ironic part about that is it wasn't the wrong move, because that's how bad their offense was at the time. Because they were in the same spot the previous week, and they tried to play it out of the end zone, and they just got hit. So at that point, they're like, we're this bad, we have to do it. That's where they were at as an offense.
Hey, Jordan, I think one of the more intriguing storylines about this team is you bring in a guy like Mike Kafka as the offensive coordinator. Now, his only coaching experience was under Andy Reid out in Kansas City.
Right.
Obviously, this will be the first time he's ever called a play, or is he calling the play? Who's calling the plays in this offense?
Mike Kafka has been calling the plays all summer. He's doing it in the preseason game. My take on this has been since the start. Mike Kafka is basically the offensive coordinator or whatever. He's up there high in the depth chart in Kansas City. He's working with Patrick Mahomes. Is he really taking a job to go work with Daniel Jones and the Giants if he wasn't told he was going to call plays? To me, that was always like, he's going to call plays. Like, for his career, like, if he's going to make that move, it's to go call plays, not leave Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for a job where he's not even calling plays. So I think that appears to be the plan.
Yeah.
Of course, if it doesn't go well, we've seen coaches pull back the reins, all the time. I mean, Bill Parcells once took play calling duties away from Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can happen, but I think the idea is for Mike Kafka to call the plays.
Okay.
But look, Brian Daboll is going to be super involved in that too. Let's not kid ourselves, right?
Right.
In no way, shape, or form is Brian Daboll not going to be heavily involved in that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense, Jordan. And I mean, look, all roads lead back to Daniel Jones here and just what they have. In fairness to him, like you mentioned, it's been kind of a mess during his career there. And the offenses that have been, whether it's Judge, whether it was Shermer, the offensive coordinators, he appears to have some good guys in place now who know what the heck they're doing. But the question is, does he have the goods? Is he good enough in your estimation?
I think Daniel Jones is a quality NFL starter. I think if we switch Daniel Jones's career with Jalen Hurts, I think we would have a very different view of Daniel Jones if we saw him play with a competent offensive line throughout his career, but he hasn't. I mean, he really hasn't. And if you think about it, you say, oh, he has Saquon Barkley, he has these other guys. He honestly hasn't, if you think about it, played with a healthy Saquon Barkley for any period of his starting tenure. That year Saquon had, his rookie year, was before Daniel Jones was a starter. Since then, it's been a whole run of injuries. Right. So he hasn't even played with Saquon Barkley. Now, do I think he's, a top 10 quarterback? If in a better situation on a good team, that seems a stretch. I think he's an average NFL starter. Ryan Tannehill is kind of the range that comes to my mind. Now, is that good enough ultimately? Do you want to build your team around that? I think that's sort of what people in Philadelphia are going through right now, right? We know Jalen Hurts, he's good enough to be a starter. He's good enough to be okay. He's good enough we really want to build our team around it and bank on him to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Hey, Jordan, you mentioned the offensive line, and that has been an Achilles heel for this team for a long time. How's the offensive line looking so far?
It's funny you say that. I make this joke, and it's not even a joke anymore.
Right.
Is that since I've been here most all of it, we're in year 10 of the offensive line rebuild here.
Oh, geez.
Seriously.
Oh,
that's where they're at. 2012 was kind of the last time that they had a decent offensive line. And it's crazy to think about. 2012, they've been trying that long to fix their offensive line and haven't been able to do it. It's better. They've used two top, 10 picks now, the 4 and the 7 on Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal as tackles. If those guys are what they think they are, and Andrew Thomas had a much better second year. He showed signs of end up being a high-end tackle. Evan Neal's just massive. I mean, he makes Andrew Thomas and everyone else on the offensive line look small. Now, he struggled a little bit early in camp, but he's a rookie. I'm sure he'll take his lumps a little bit as a rookie. But if those two guys are the real deal, I think we're finally back towards the point of, the Giants will at least have a serviceable offensive line. The interior still has question marks. The depth is really non-existent. So, any injuries, their offensive line could end up being rough again. I think if we look at it, Gunner, and you say the Giants had an average offensive line this year, for where they've been at and the struggle they've had, that's a success at this point.
Jeez.
They're just hoping, okay, let's just have an average offensive line.
Wow.
Jeez.
When I look at their defense, I see their core is good. Their 2 defensive linemen are good. Their 2 interior linebackers are good. And I think their safeties are okay also. But anything outside the defensive ends, the outside linebackers, the cornerbacks are all average at best. I mean, I can't believe you guys let go Brandon Berry. So, what do you see from this defense? I know Kayvon Thibodeau's there now. Do they have enough to rush the passer?
Yeah, you know what? This is actually – so they have Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, who was a rookie last year, 8 sacks as a rookie. Kind of was supposed to be a first-round pick. People had concerns about his knee. So they have 2 quality young edge rushers. And Thibodeau looks really good so far. And if he is what they think he is, and then you combine that with Leonard Williams in the middle, yes. I think their pass rush can be pretty good now. Is it going to be great? Probably not. Thibodeau's a rookie. He's probably going to go through, natural growing pains. There's very, very few guys in this league that come in as a rookie and end up with 10, 12, 14 sacks, right?
Like Chase,
play at that level.
Chase Young did, but he's an outlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys. I mean, one of the Boasts did. Parsons obviously did last year, but I mean, it's even Chase Young barely did. He had like 9, I think it was. Like
right.
So it's really hard to come in and be that dominant player. But the Giants have been they've been so weak at that spot now for the last 7 years. They have one double-digit outside, linebacker / defensive end that has had double-digit sacks in 7 years. I mean, usually like every team has a guy who gets double-digit sacks, and that one guy was Marcus Golden. So it's not like they've had this high-end pass rusher. So the hope is that Thibodeau and Ojulari are the answers out there. And if they are, that'll help them hide some of the maybe deficiencies that they have in the secondary. Because, look, they didn't want to get rid of Bradbury, and they could have kept Bradbury, but it would have meant having to move a lot of money around and basically move stuff into 2023. And really, then they're kind of messing with their future. They know this is an evaluation year, right? It's a new regime. Every big player on this roster, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Galladay, Adoree Jackson, Blake Martinez, Sterling Shepard. I mean, I can go on and on. They're all basically either free agents or their contracts are set up where they basically, in a evaluation year where it's either, play to a high level or get cut. Even Leonard Williams is in that spot like that. So they're in an evaluation year, and then next year they're going to say, okay, who do we want to keep here to build forward with?
Jordan, your estimation with a change of scene, how good is Bradbury here with the Eagles? You buying a change of scenery is good for him? Tear him up with Slay, how good could he be?
I think Bradbury in 2020 played like a true number one. He played probably as a top 5 cornerback in the league. Last year, not so great. I think when you have a guy like Slay and you put him in a number 2 role, I think that's his ideal role. So I think he will thrive in that role. He's still young enough. It's not like a talent problem. But I mean, if he has to go up against the top receiver every week, it's a lot different. If he's going up against team's number 2, I think you could honestly leave him out there and say, hey, you just lock him down and you're in good shape. Like he is, maybe the best number 2 cornerback in the league, if that's, what you get to use him as. I think if you get to use him in that role, and he's never really been in that role, because if you think about it, Carolina, that was never their strength. They were never loaded at cornerback when he was there. The Giants, he was their clear-cut number 1 at the time. Now you put him in a number 2 role, I think that's actually perfect for him.
Hey, Jordan, everything I hear about your defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, is he will attack, and he will attack again from start to finish. Are you seeing that in practice sessions? I know obviously at this stage, a lot of coaches don't want to tip their hands too much.
No,
this dude's claim to fame is sending the hounds every play. Is that and the second part of the question is, do you have the personnel to implement what he wants to do?
I think they do. Their problem is depth. Like, again, any injuries. That's really the problem on the entire roster. It's like we weren't able to make a lot of moves. We were strung against the cap, because of all these moves Gettleman made, and you can look at their entire roster. They have like 4 guys on the entire roster, I think, that made a Pro Bowl in their career, and 2 of those guys are the kicker and the long snapper.
Jeez.
So yeah, the overall look of the roster is like there's not those high-end players. So they did what they could. And so depth is, if any injuries, they're going to have a really hard time filling those holes. But like if you have Thibodeau, if you have Ojulari, if you have Leonard Williams, if you have Adoree Jackson stay healthy, he hasn't done that much in his career. Xavier McKinney's a really good young player. Blake Martinez is coming off a major injury at linebacker. If he could stay healthy, then like they could be a pretty good defense. They dominated this summer. Now, granted, you kind of expected that. He brings the house. He brings so much pressure. You're installing a new offense. You have a quarterback who's on his 4th coordinator in 4 years. Like, you knew that the defense was going to be ahead, but they're in the backfield on every play this summer. So, they look like they're going to, if they are what they, the full version of what they could be, they could be a pretty good defense. And like you said, he takes everybody on the defense, basically has them bluffing or near the line of scrimmage, and you don't know who's coming from where. They might only rush 4. The thing is, you don't know which 4 it is that they're going to rush. So a lot of blitzes from your secondary, defensive backs, nickels, everywhere. Even your defensive ends outside linebackers in this scheme are, shifting inside and almost playing like a middle linebacker spot at times to blitz the A-gaps. Like that's what you're going to see from the Giants. A lot of pressure, a lot of confusion, and younger quarterbacks are probably going to have a lot of trouble with this defense. And it'll be interesting to see where Jalen Hurts kind of falls in that mix there.
I hated those type of defenses, man. I played against Baltimore when they had those type of defenses, man. But I'm gonna flip to the opposite side of the ball. Is Barkley healthy? Is he there? I know we talked about him earlier, but I want to know, is he healthy right now to go out there? Will you see signs of what you saw his rookie year?
Well, here's the thing, and I actually just said this on another interview with Barkley. He was amazing his rookie year, right? He was unbelievable. That was 2018, right?
Wow.
18.
It's been that long?
So we've now gone 3 straight years with him being banged up and injured. One time he tore his ACL. The other time it was different ankles, all different kinds of things. To expect him to get back to what he was in his rookie year, I'm not sure if that's realistic at this point. Can he get back to being a really good player? A potentially great player? Yeah, I do think so. And what we've seen this summer is the healthiest Saquon Barkley I've seen in years. But I think, how many running backs do we know that get beat up and banged up and then they just come back and they're back to their previous form? It's pretty rare. And you're talking about 3 full years later, basically. So I think he could be really good. He's looked great this summer. Like, he's looked the best I've seen him in years. And Barry, you've seen players do it. I'm sure you were in a situation. There's a difference between this point last year, he's rehabbing and still not cleared.
Right.
So now this is second year off the ACL. He got to spend the whole offseason training instead of rehabbing, which is there's a big difference between training and rehabbing.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we've seen a much healthier, and he's talked about it. He didn't have full confidence in himself and his leg last year, especially early in the season. And then when he finally started to get it back, he stepped on somebody's foot and screwed up his ankle, and he really never got back to that point again. So I think having a fresh start and being in a contract year, this is his opportunity. It's now or never for him, right?
Yep.
5th year, you don't have a great year this year, that big payday or any sort of like significant payday never coming for him.
Yeah, interesting.
He knows that.
Hey, Jordan, things got a little testy up there at Giants camp on Monday. Offensive line coach, what's his name? Bobby Johnson. Had to apologize for shoving linebacker Cam Brown when the melee broke out. I mean, obviously a lot of people trying to impress the new coaching staff, but man, I hate to say it, being somewhat sadistic, but I love that kind of stuff more so than watching practices, to see stuff like that happen in practice.
Yeah. You guys tell me though, is it strange for a coach to kind of get in there and
yes,
and be the aggressor? Usually, they get in the middle. You might, push guy a little bit here, there, but he was the aggressor at one point. Like, it was
Jordan. It don't happen, down. Jordan. That don't happen, because if a coach put his hands on me, it's a problem.
I agree. So that's the reason why it caught my attention, was that it was basically calming down, and Bobby Johnson just went and shoved the guy that was pulling his center out of the pile, and then it sort of incited the whole thing again. Then they started throwing haymakers with helmets on, which is the world's stupidest thing. Especially your center's throwing haymakers at a guy from behind, blindsiding him, and the guy's wearing a helmet. Like, very stupid. There's nothing good that can come out of that. But yeah, to me, it was just awkward that the coach, and he said the day after, he was saying, "Look, I take full responsibility. I apologize. That can't happen again. Absolutely can't happen again." And I think that's right. Like, the fact that it didn't, the players took it, I think, better than, like you said, you might have taken that person and be like, "Yo, no coach puts your hands on a player. That's just something that goes."
Right.
It was a young guy. It was a young guy who's kind of like a fringe guy, so he's not going to make a big deal out of it, right?
Right.
It kind of made it just quell over and disappear, but absolutely, I think all eyes are on him. Like, and he's a fiery guy, but that was crossing the line, I think.
Jordan, how good do you think the Eagles are, man? I mean, we dissect it every single day. You're close enough in division and having, been here as well to keep an eye on them. What are your thoughts going into this season?
I think they have a really good, deep roster. And the big question mark to me, and look, I've seen him play, 4 times, I guess now? It hurts. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he started all 4 games in those 2 years, but against the Giants, at least 3.
Yep.
And he hasn't played great in those 3 games. Every time I watch it, I'm looking there, I'm like, if Daniel Jones was playing on the Eagles, he would be better than Jalen Hurts. Now, I think you could win games with Jalen Hurts, and they got a really good roster. They're going to win games. They might win they have a good chance to win the division. It's just a matter of how much growth can he make, in my opinion, to see, okay, can this team be a serious contender? But in order for that to be the case, they needed him to play at a high level. And what I saw against the Giants, some of these games, he hasn't. I remember he made an awful interception. He threw an awful interception I think it was the second game last year.
It was
near the end zone. It was just like, I was like, what is he doing? That was terrible. And he really didn't play that well. Now they actually lost the game to the Giants. They split, but to me, it's all on him. The rest of the roster, man, that's a really good roster that I look at. And, with the offensive line that they have, and the first time in forever that I can remember, I don't remember the Eagles having weapons like this ever, right? Because you got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert, who you can't just overlook. I mean, those are 3 legit receivers. And we can go back however far you want to go. When did the Eagles had the top tight end receiver and 2 really high end wide receivers? I don't even know.
Never.
They never had.
Yeah,
never.
It's been forever if they have. Overall. I think it's going to be really interesting. I wanted to hit you with Washington too on the way out here. What do you think about Wentz? And they always seem, there's always a buzz. There's always a circus going on. In fact, they fired their defensive line coach already. But what's your sense of them in general and what you're going to see from Wentz?
I actually think that I almost said the R word. I almost said it.
The Commanders.
The Washington Commanders. I think their roster is better than most people realize. Yep. I think they almost underachieved last year a little bit. I mean, they have 2 really, 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 really high-end pass rushers. Like that defense, if they get things right with Chase Young and Montez Sweat, can be really, really good. Like there's not many teams in this league that have as good a pass rushing duo, if those 2 can stay healthy, that they do. And then they've upgraded their talent, like their playmaking talent, the last couple of years. And so they drafted Dotson from Penn State.
Yep.
They have McLaurin. They have the guy from Carolina that they signed, Kurt Samuel.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, they have pieces. I like their running backs. I like Antonio Gibson. So Wentz has some pieces to work with. I think they should be pretty good. I honestly think they're the team that could surprise people. Like, if somebody said, go off the board and make a real surprise pick, like I would pick Washington to win the division. Like,
wow.
If they stay healthy, I really do think they have a chance to be a good team. I
didn't think he had us with that. Okay, that's interesting. Do you think Dallas takes a step back?
I mean, I'm not the biggest Wentz fan. The fact that Frank Reich gave up on him speaks volumes to me. Like, if his guy gave up on him after 1 year, like there's something there that is not right with him overall.
Agreed.
And when we're talking about it, and you guys all know this, is something in the way he operates and he carries himself and the way it kind of plays in the locker room and with guys around him. It's just something's just off. If he can't command the respect of everybody around him, they all seem to look at him like a stink guy. I don't know. That's just the impression I get from a distance. And actually from talking to people, you've heard a lot about it over the last few years. So if Frank Reich gave up on him, like I don't want to bet on Carson Wentz bouncing back and being this
not a good sign. It is not a good sign. Jordan, listen, man, we appreciate it. People can follow him on Twitter at Jordan Raanan. Of course, your work on ESPN, ESPN.com, covering the Giants. And I don't care what anybody says, you are still a man of the people. So that's do.
That's right.
We do appreciate and quality bookcase behind you too.
If you want to know, how big a man of the people, I was a couple minutes late because I'm in charge of the 2.5-year-old this afternoon. I had to change the diaper, throw him down, get him down. So I basically threw him in the crib. I'm like, good night.
That's we appreciate that kind of effort, man.
People do this kind of thing.
Exactly right. Jordan, keep it up, man.
Hopefully we can get you on during the regular season, man, as
we'll
this game start to unfold.
Absolutely. We'll do it for sure.
Okay, man.
All right, brother. Yep.
Have a good day. All right, let's get a quickie here, guys. You come back. Guess who's on deck? The one and only Anthony Becht, the new head coach of the my favorite name, by the way. I need some gear. The Battlehawks. We'll talk to Anthony when we get back. Don't go anywhere. Sports Take. Rob Ellis, Derrick Gunn, Barrett Brooks.